service. Good evening.
These are the Hickory Hound's News and Views.
This is News and Views for the week ending August the 24th, 2025. This is a summation of my personal reflection that opens this week's News and Views. Infrastructure of the mind. This reflection argues that true resilience isn't about toughness or adrenaline, but about building infrastructure of the mind. Life forces us down internal roads no one prepares us for, times when silence, rejection, and decline surround us. The only way to keep creating meaningful work in such conditions is to construct durable habits of thought, patterns of discipline, reflection, and focus that don't collapse under pressure. Unlike motivation, which fades, this inner architecture provides continuity and strength, even when external validation is absent. Many people today face collapse without comprehension. They react or shut down because they lack systems of thought to process ambiguity. Those who endure are not necessarily the bravest, but those who have built unseen scaffolding inside themselves. The piece insists the future will belong not to slogans or saviors, but to individuals whose inner systems can weather chaos without becoming it. Now to Rachel AI with this week's article review and the feature story on data center development in our community and what should happen with regards to development in communities like ours.
This is Rachel AI for the Hickory Hound, and now to this week's articles. On Monday, on the Hound's Signal on Substack, the commander introduced the Foothills Corridor, Chapters 3 and 4. Globalization and Economic Extraction explores the devastating collapse of the Foothills Corridor. Chapter 3 details the human cost of globalization. Factories shuttered, families uprooted, and dignity stripped as $20 an hour jobs 20 years ago became part-time warehouse shifts. Chapter 4 exposes civic breakdown, disengaged voters, hollowed institutions, media decline, and outside extraction. Together, they reveal how economic betrayal and political apathy fractured a proud region, leaving resilience to those who refused to quit. On Tuesday, on the Hickory Hound welcomed a Dear Rachel episode. Life is Wonderful. It features the archetype character Norman Harcourt in a conversation with Rachel. They explore Norman's optimism and the power of planning, but Rachel questions whether hope alone can sustain a community where inequality, affordability, and civic decay are glaring. The episode balances generational wisdom with present struggles by discussing wealth, privilege, economic upheaval, and the tension between nostalgic progress and current hardship. On Thursday on The Hound, we continue with the demographic dynamic series, Catawba County's Quiet Mosaic, Citizenship, Language, and the Burden of Belonging. This reveals how roughly 6.7% of residents were born abroad, many naturalized, many still navigating visa processes. It shows that around 13% of households speak a non-English language, putting elderly Hmong and Spanish-speaking families at odds with under-resourced services. Communities concentrated in low-cost neighborhoods face deeper vulnerability. On Friday, back on the Hound Signal and back to the Foothills Corridor. Chapter 5, The Era of Loss, Jobs, Identity, Youth, where globalization and automation erased tens of thousands of jobs, dismantled community identity, and drove young people away. Factories once tied to family pride and stability disappeared, leaving economic insecurity, cultural shame, and demographic hollowing. The chapter portrays grief in daily details: empty ball fields, shuttered diners, absent youth, while urging truth-telling as the first step toward renewal and reinvention. This week's feature story looks at data centers, the billion-dollar projects marketed as clean engines of growth. Communities across our region are being asked to welcome them, but the costs are often hidden. Massive water and power use, few permanent jobs, and long-term risks left behind. We examine whether these facilities truly serve the public good or simply extract local resources. Data centers are multiplying across the country. Too often they are treated like glamorous tech investments. But in reality, they function more like utility-scale infrastructure projects. They devour electricity, drain water, and consume hundreds of acres of land. When companies move on, the facilities are nearly impossible to repurpose. That's why we need rules, strong rules. First, new centers should be built only on brownfields or existing industrial land, not on farmland or forests. Second, they must be barred from using drinking water for cooling. Air-based systems or reclaimed wastewater should be the standard. Third, companies should offset their massive energy draw with new renewable power equal to what they consume. Counties must also charge impact fees based on megawatts consumed, directing those funds to schools, water systems, and broadband. Transparency should be non-negotiable. Quarterly public reports on energy, water, and tax payments. And before construction even begins, companies should post a decommissioning bond to guarantee cleanup when the facility shuts down. These aren't obstacles. They are common sense protections. And if a company resists, the answer is clear. They're not here to be neighbors. They're here to extract resources on the cheap. So why do counties chase them? Because billion-dollar campuses look impressive on balance sheets. They bring headlines and political bragging rights. Marketed as clean replacements for lost factories, they seem modern and safe. But the truth is sobering. A billion-dollar project may create fewer than 200 jobs, and tax breaks often gut the promised revenue. Across the nation, communities are pushing back. Since 2023, over $60 billion in projects have been delayed or blocked. Residents in Missouri, Indiana, and right here in Mooresville, North Carolina, are saying no. Internationally, protests in the Netherlands and Chile highlight the same concerns. These are extractive operations. The risks are greatest in rural areas. Water shortages, grid stress, locked up land, and costly shells left behind. The bottom line is simple. Demand for data centers will keep growing. But without strong rules, they will become the next version of the old textile mills, draining communities and leaving scars. Counties must stop being dazzled and start protecting their people.
I've told people many times before that I'm a systems person, and I'm going to discuss with you here the difference between a systems person and a reactionary person. We've all seen the reactionary types, quick to critique, slow to build. They run from fire to fire, stamping out symptoms, often ones they caused, mistaking motion for progress. Fueled by grievance and hindsight, they eventually burn out. Without structure, collapse is inevitable. A systems person works differently. They think critically, see complexity, and focus on root causes instead of surface noise. They design durable solutions and value structure over chaos. Where the reactionary repeats the same cycles, the systems person breaks them and begins rebuilding. But systems thinking isn't rigidity. Frameworks must be flexible enough to bend under pressure. A true systems person can adjust, adapt, and even call an audible when reality shifts. The discipline lies in knowing the difference between a necessary adjustment and a recycled mistake. In my own life, I've learned that reacting is natural. But when the same problem reappears, it's a sign that the structure beneath it must be confronted. Ignore it, and exhaustion follows. Address it, and progress begins. That is the difference between reaction and renewal. One leads to burnout, the other sustains endurance. For Hickory, for Catawba County, for the Foothills Corridor, that choice determines our future. Why I represent the systems person. I represent the systems person because I built the very infrastructure of systems into my work. My writing isn't random output. It's structured through frameworks and feedback loops that turn complexity into something usable. Take the SIF system. I created it to prevent drowning in scattered notes. By categorizing, filtering, extracting signals, and layering metadata, research becomes ordered and repeatable, a process I can apply to any subject. The same logic drives my compendiums and deep search sequences. Each piece is interlocked. One establishes a socioeconomic baseline, another examines access and security, another unpacks demographic realities. Together, they create a knowledge architecture designed for durability, with one leading to the next and leading to the next. I also developed executive summaries and cheat sheets so every subject is accessible at 2 levels: full analysis and condensed digest. Policymakers, journalists, or residents can engage on their terms. My publishing calendar is an operating system. Tuesday and Thursday articles feed into Sunday's news and views. Platforms themselves are interlinked. Blog, Substack, YouTube, and eventually we'll have zines. Nodes in a broader shell cooperative framework. And because no system can be brittle, I've built in flexibility to pivot themes or formats as needed. I don't just produce work, I build systems that endure. In closing, this week's haiku. Silent roads within, patterns built to bear the weight. Order outlasts noise. Fortune cookie message distilled from these news and views. Strength comes not from applause, but from systems built to endure. Protect your community with rules that outlast the hype, and resilience will carry you where promises cannot. Thank you for spending this time with us. Until next week, stay watchful, stay steady, and keep building the kind of community